Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority. Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb Schlinker is also a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday, and if you can't listen to the entire show, it is always, always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or go ahead and search for her on all of the popular podcast platforms like iHeartRadio. Every week, Your Real Estate Voice covers great information about the housing market and one of the largest assets most people have, their home. Barb, what are we talking about today?
Well, good morning, Richard. I'm excited about today's topics because they're often in the news. The first one, though, not too many people ever really talk about, and that's about negotiating. So I really want to talk in the first segment about who has the negotiating advantage in today's market here in Colorado. You'd be surprised. It does depend. So we're going to go into some detail on that. We're going to talk about some fun negotiation. And I know you and I have talked about it before, Richard, that there's very little training on it. You come from a legal background. You didn't get professional training on how to negotiate. And I didn't get it until I paid somebody a lot of money. It just doesn't come naturally in real estate. I mean, there's no how to in this industry. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say to be a real estate agent in the state of Colorado is 1 month of school. You hang your license with a broker and they're like, go sell, figure it out, bring me some of that commission. That's exactly how I was treated when I started. It hasn't changed to this date. And it's odd to me that they don't give these people that are supposed to be professionals in the industry, because the consumer doesn't know. They assume that real estate agents know how to negotiate, handle objections, closing skills, marketing. That's what they expect agents to know. And there's almost no training on it. It's kind of surprising. So it'll be fun talking about that one. What do you think, Richard?
Well, I agree with you. I go to law school. You go for 3 years. They teach you a lot of things, but they have exactly zero class, zero discussion, in fact, on how to negotiate. And for a trial attorney, 95% of what you do is negotiating settlements on big cases up to $1 million here or there. And they don't teach you anything about it. But marketing as well for you, Barb. They don't
Yeah.
give you marketing in your real estate license, do they?
No, not at all. I had to get into a coaching program and get with some of the top agents in the country to figure it out. And it's a constant learning experience along with all the technology changing. But it's the same way with negotiating. I remember the first time I actually got decent training on just how to show a house, just show a house, right? I was 10 years in the business by the time that happened. And I'm like, wow, nobody's taught me how to open a door and present a home to the buyer, you know? And so that's why I joke on the show and tell, tell people that a lot of agents are kind of overpaid door openers. And before they show really is where the real work is supposed to begin. I know we're a little off topic, but I want to talk about this. They're supposed to sit down with the buyer, find out what they're looking for, find out what their needs are, what is their ideal perfect scenario for them to buy a house, and make sure they qualify to buy a house. So on the other side of that, the seller assumes that these people showing their house, love their house, can buy their house, want to buy a house that's like that. And then all of a sudden they get feedback from the agent. Oh, well, they're still working on their pre-qualification. They didn't want a house in that kind of floor plan. I'm like, what? You mean you just showed up and opened the door? And the problem is these tech companies kind of set the stage for that. So there are 1,500 different multiple listing services in the country. They're all different software and they don't talk to each other. So what realtor.com did years ago when things started going up online, probably late 90s, right after I got in the business, they created one website that integrated all those 1,500 different software MLSs. Like in Colorado, there's a Pikes Peak MLS, Canyon City, what's the name of that? Sangre de Cristo Mountains. There's the Pueblo MLS and 5 different versions of the Denver MLS. They're all completely different and they don't crosstalk with each other, which is crazy because we have a lot of agents come down from Denver that show homes and even agents that come up from Pueblo and show homes in this market. So they don't have all the data. And so realtor.com combined them all into one website and they made a business out of it because the National Association gave up that name to Rupert Murdoch, who owns realtor.com. And so they take all the different MLSs in the country displayed as one website and then sell buyer leads to agents that pay them. So if I wanted to market in this zip code as an example, I might pay them whatever amount per month to maybe get buyer leads that raise their hand to say, I want to see that house. And Zillow does the same thing. So both Zillow and realtor.com work very similar like that. So does homes.com. It's kind of a pay to play scenario. All the listings will be on there, but you won't get the leads unless you pay them. And the problem is the buyers are looking at those websites. Most of them are not looking directly at the local multiple listing services. So it's really, technology definitely has changed our world. And the problem is if a buyer connects with an agent somehow, maybe they talk to an agent about, hey, I want to see that home. The next thing they know they're showing homes. With the new National Association of Realtor settlement, they're supposed to have a written agreement about how they get paid. There's no written agreement about verifying the buyer can perform or verifying what the buyer's looking for, or even telling the buyer what kind of services the agent provides. There's none of that. It just has to be an agreement on how they get paid. But they don't know how they get paid if they tell the buyer, oh, don't worry, I'll get it from the seller. Sometimes the sellers are not willing to pay 3% to a buyer's agent. And I've seen in the negotiations, buyer's agents actually talk the buyers out of the house or even looking at the house over whether or not they think they can get their fee, which to me is a conflict of interest, right? Your job is supposed to be help these people get into a home. It should be a long-term play, not just this transaction where you get paid. I know I went on and on about that, but that's the first big topic. Followed by another very controversial one that makes people nervous is how to prevent squatters from moving into your home. And then the third topic is the top tips to increase the sales price of your home in Colorado. And you'll be surprised what I'm going to say about that. And last but not least, we're going to talk about what do you do if you want to buy your next home, but you need to sell your home first? We have some great solutions for that. And we're helping people do that all the time. So we're ready to get started, Richard.
So, Barb, with more homes on the market, rising inventory is what that means. Are you seeing a change in how buyers and sellers are negotiating that home for sale?
The only slight change that I'm seeing right now is with this NAR settlement, what happened was that no longer is the buyer's agent commission offered up in the MLS. Before last year, August, so it's been almost a year since this change took place, whatever commission amount that was offered in the multiple listing service, if that agent brought you a contract that closed, the seller had to pay whatever that was. It wasn't in the contract, it was built into the MLS system. And if the listing agent didn't provide that amount of money at closing, that buyer agent could take you to what they call arbitration, which is really a fight between agents. And you had to pay them no matter what happened. So the reason why it changed is when the DOJ got involved, they discovered that a lot of these big box brokerages actually had built into their training document, hey, real estate agent, if you don't offer up at least 2.5%, 3%, whatever it was to the buyer's agents out there, they won't even show your home. They'll steer around it, which is antitrust, it's price fixing. And that's the reason why this settlement took place. And it cost the National Association a lot of money. Also, some of those big box brokerages had to stroke huge checks to settle that issue. But anyway, so as a result, what happened is that now theoretically, the agent is supposed to have a written agreement before they show a home. However, we've tested it, and guess what? If you tell them, well, the National Association mandates it, that we have to have an agreement on how I'm going to get paid if you buy that house, they'll say, oh, forget it. They'll just cancel because they will find somebody else that will go and open the door for them without any commitment. And there is no police over watching this. So it's insane right now. But at the end of the day, contracts are between buyer and seller. Negotiations are between buyer and seller. And right now, with the inventory up and the pending sales up as well, it's critical to be the best home at the best price on the market. The rates ticked up a little bit in the last week. Homes are taking longer to sell for sure. So how does a homeowner know if they have a negotiating advantage? Basically, when they go on the market, if they're getting activity, calls, showings immediately right out of the gate, especially when they're getting lots of showings. So Showing Time, which is owned by Zillow, it's the showing service that most of the agents use, says that an average for prices under $1 million is about 6 a week. That's actually high right now from what I'm seeing, because we are pricing our homes pretty realistically overall. I'm not seeing that many showings right now. I feel like there's a lot of people kind of sitting on the sideline, waiting for rates to drop. And I think it's not going to be until next year, because I'm not sure. What do you think, Richard? Do you think Trump is going to fire the Fed?
I think it's a matter of time. And I don't think it's just interest rates. I think he's doing a lot of things that gets on Trump's nerve and on my nerve, and all of the money he's spending to do all this remodeling and rehabbing. I think Trump is justified in saying, really, we need all of that for you to do your job. Yeah, I
Right.
expect him to be gone eventually.
Yeah. Well, I think his term ends next May. So we can definitely count on some change next year, next summer for sure. But between now and then, I don't know. So basically, what we're talking about here is, how do you know if you have a negotiating advantage? And also, what we're going to talk about here in just a minute are some ways that you can put yourself in a position of power. Richard?
Barb, we're discussing who has the negotiating advantage in today's real estate market right here in Colorado. So, how does a home seller know that they're in a position to drive those negotiations?
Well, you can tell right away if you're getting interest and multiple offers and people chomping at the bit to get in the house. That the market will tell you immediately. And I really feel like the buyers are uber educated about what represents a good house at a good price. They know right away. And buyers right now are pickier than ever. You would not believe some of the stuff they turn their nose up at. Well, it has popcorn ceilings, or oh, it's too dated. Or, you might have a gorgeous kitchen and maybe not every room in the house is updated, and they'll say it's too dated. So that just tells me they're finding better deals out there. So when it comes down to negotiations, in my view, most agents are kind of like, I call them messengers, where they just shove an offer at you and wait for a written response, which is fine. But then if you get them on the phone and you try to work out the terms, I had one just the other day say, "Oh no, absolutely not." When we said, "All right, we agree to your term about this, will that work?" No, it won't. And I'm thinking, I wonder why not. And then he said, well, there's just other things in that counter that won't work. Well, the only other thing that wasn't really innocuous, picky little detail was commission. He was expecting more commission. It was obvious that he was putting himself between the buyer getting the house over how much money he made, or maybe he mandated the buyer to pay his fee. But at the end of the day, it's really sad to see that. Now, I think it's fun. It's a fun thing for me. So what we did to kind of force the issue, since he was making a decision for the buyer. I mean, think about this, Richard. You're the buyer, and during this negotiation, the agent, when he sent the offer the next morning, he left a voicemail and said, "Hey, my buyer's willing to pay more for that house." Right? So we knew that. We saw that message. We didn't counter that high. But then when he got the counter, all of a sudden they weren't interested and they felt like they were paying for everything. And I really think it was about commission. That was the only difference. And there's just some agents that really, they're all about the money. And here's the thing, he never opened the door. He didn't even show, hasn't seen the house. He came to the open house. He hasn't left his fuzzy bunny slippers, and this guy is demanding 3%. If I was a buyer, I'd be really upset that an agent made a decision without me knowing. What do you think about that?
I would be livid. It's one of the reasons that I recommend you and only you, because you don't do things like that.
Thank you. Well, you know, it's you really need to ask that question when you hire a real estate agent. What's important to you, and what do you know about negotiations, and how are you going to position my contract so I get the house that I want? Those would be some really good questions, because honestly, I don't think there's a whole lot of training in it. Anyway, if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call. We negotiate every day. I have a whole team of great negotiators. And you can call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you are thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to prevent squatters from moving into your home. You do not want to miss that. Stay tuned.